The sun was setting behind the hills when Riley walked into Millbrook, a small town in Texas that looked like it belonged in an old movie. Her feet were bleeding, leaving tiny red marks on the dusty road. She had been walking for 3 days straight, stopping only when her body couldn't take another step. 24 years old, and she had nothing left. Not even shoes. 6 months ago, her life was completely different. She lived with her parents on a small farm outside Austin. Her mom grew the best tomatoes in the county, and her dad could fix anything with an engine. They weren't rich, but they were happy. Riley worked at the local library and dreamed of maybe going back to school someday. Then everything changed in one terrible night. The phone call came at 2 a.m. A drunk driver had hit her parents' car head-on. They died instantly, the officer said. Riley remembered falling to her knees in the hospital hallway, feeling like the world had stopped spinning. The months that followed were a blur of paperwork, lawyers, and bills she never knew existed. Her parents had taken out loans to keep the farm running during a bad drought 2 years earlier. The medical bills from her mom's cancer treatment the year before had eaten up their savings. When all the debts were counted, Riley owed more money than she could make in 10 years. The bank took the farm, the house, even her dad's old pickup truck. Her boyfriend of 3 years, Danny, stuck around for about 2 weeks after the funeral. "This is too much for me," he said one morning, packing his clothes while she sat numb on the couch. "I can't handle all this drama." He left that afternoon and moved in with his ex-girlfriend the same week. Riley had an aunt in California, but they barely talked. Her mom's sister lived in Florida with 4 kids of her own and couldn't take in another mouth to feed. Her dad was an only child, and his parents had passed away years ago. For a while, she lived in her car, showering at the gym and eating dollar menu items. But when she couldn't make the car payments, they took that too. She spent 2 weeks sleeping in the library where she used to work, hiding in the bathroom until everyone left, then curling up between the book stacks. But libraries aren't open 24 hours, and the security guard finally caught her. That's when she started walking. She had heard about Millbrook from her mom, who grew up here before moving to Austin. Nice people, her mom always said. The kind of place where neighbors still help neighbors. Riley figured maybe someone would give her work, maybe let her sleep in a barn or something until she could get back on her feet. Now, standing at the edge of town with the last light fading from the sky, she wasn't so sure. Her stomach hurt from not eating for 2 days. Her hands were shaking, though she wasn't sure if it was from hunger or fear. The main street had maybe 20 buildings. A hardware store, a post office, a bank, and a diner with a neon sign that said Rosie's Place in red letters. Most of the other shops looked closed, maybe permanently. Riley touched the $5 bill in her pocket. It was all the money she had left in the world. She found it in the couch cushions of the last place she'd crashed, a friend's apartment in Austin, before she wore out her welcome there too. The diner looked warm and bright. Through the big windows, she could see people eating dinner, talking and laughing. Normal people living normal lives. Riley stood outside for 10 minutes trying to work up the courage to go in. What would she say? How do you ask strangers for help when you've never had to beg for anything in your life? Her mom's voice echoed in her memory. "Pride won't fill your belly, sweetheart." Riley pushed open the door and a little bell chimed above her head. The conversation stopped. Every head in the place turned to look at her. She suddenly realized how she must look. Dirty clothes, tangled hair, no shoes, cuts on her arms from walking through thorny brush. A waitress with gray hair and kind eyes walked over. "Honey, are you all right?" Riley's throat felt tight. I'd like some coffee, please." "Of course, sugar. Right this way." The waitress led her to a booth in the back corner. Riley slid across the cracked vinyl seat, grateful to be off her feet. The coffee came quickly, hot and strong, and Riley wrapped her hands around the mug to stop them from shaking. She made that coffee last an hour, taking tiny sips and trying to ignore the way people kept glancing at her. Some looked curious. Others looked uncomfortable. A few looked annoyed that someone like her was in their nice, clean diner. When the coffee was gone, Riley stared at the bottom of the empty mug and tried to figure out what to do next. The waitress came back with the check, $3 for coffee. Riley put her $5 on the table and waited for change. "Excuse me, miss." The waitress was back, looking embarrassed. "I'm real sorry, but my manager says..." "Well, he says if you're not ordering food, you can't stay much longer." Riley's face burned with shame. "I understand." She stood up to leave, taking her $2 in change. As she walked toward the door, she heard a man's voice behind her. "Hold on there, miss." Riley turned around. A tall man in a cowboy hat was standing up from a booth near the window. He looked to be in his 30s, with dark hair and eyes that seemed kind but serious. His clothes were nice but not fancy, the kind of shirt and jeans that cost good money but didn't scream about it. "You haven't finished your dinner yet," he said. "I didn't order dinner," Riley said quietly. "Well, that's a problem we can fix." He looked at the waitress. "Betty, bring this young lady a steak dinner." "The works. And some pie for dessert?" "Sir, I can't accept that," Riley said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why not?" "Because I can't pay you back." The man smiled, and it changed his whole face. "Did I ask you to pay me back?" Riley stood there, torn between pride and hunger. Her stomach chose for her, growling so loud that people at nearby tables heard it. "Please," the man said gently. "Let me buy you dinner. No strings attached." 20 minutes later, Riley was eating the best steak she'd ever tasted. The man had gone back to his own booth, giving her space but making sure she was okay. When she was almost finished eating, he walked over again. "I'm Cole Harrison," he said. "I own a ranch about 10 miles outside town." "Riley Chen," she managed between bites. "Riley, I don't mean to pry, but you look like someone who's had a rough go of it lately." Riley nodded, not trusting herself to speak. "Well," Cole said, "tomorrow's a new day, and sometimes new days bring new opportunities." He left money on her table to cover the meal and tipped his hat politely, and walked out into the night. Riley sat there for another hour, feeling human again for the first time in weeks. She didn't know it yet, but her life was about to change forever. Riley spent that night under the awning of the closed hardware store, using her jacket as a pillow and trying to stay warm. She kept thinking about the stranger who bought her dinner. Cole Harrison. She'd never met anyone like him. Someone who helped without asking questions or making her feel small. When morning came, she was stiff and cold, but the meal from the night before had given her strength. She walked to the gas station bathroom to clean up as best she could, then headed back to Rosie's diner. Maybe she could find work washing, dishes or cleaning tables. The morning crowd was different from dinner, mostly older men, drinking coffee and talking about weather and crops. Riley ordered just coffee again, making her remaining $2 stretch as far as possible. "You're the girl from last night," said Betty, the kind waitress. "How are you doing, honey?" "I'm looking for work," Riley said honestly. "Any kind of work?" "I can clean, cook a little, do bookkeeping. I'm good with numbers." Betty's face was sympathetic but not hopeful. "Times are tough around here, sugar. Most folks are barely keeping their own heads above water." Riley nodded, trying not to let disappointment show. She'd known it was a long shot, but she had to try. The bell above the door chimed, and Cole Harrison walked in. He was dressed for work, boots, jeans, and a shirt with pearl buttons. He looked around the diner until he spotted Riley, then walked over to her booth. "Mind if I sit down?" he asked. Riley shook her head, suddenly nervous. In the daylight, she could see him more clearly. He was handsome in a quiet way, with laugh lines around his eyes and hands that showed he worked hard for a living. But there was something else, a sadness maybe, or loneliness, like he carried some weight that nobody else could see. "I've been thinking about our conversation last night," Cole said, ordering coffee from Betty. "You said you were good with numbers." "Yes, sir. I helped my parents with their farm books for years, and I worked at a library doing inventory and organizing files." "What happened to your parents' farm?" Riley told him the whole story. The accident, the debts, losing everything. Cole listened without interrupting, his face serious but not judgmental. "I'm sorry," he said when she finished. "That's a heavy load for someone to carry alone." "I'm managing," Riley said, though they both knew that wasn't true. Cole was quiet for a moment, stirring his coffee. "I have a proposition for you." Riley tensed. She'd learned to be careful when men made propositions to desperate women. "I need help at my ranch," Cole continued. "My bookkeeper quit last month to move closer to her grandkids. My housekeeper, Linda, is getting older and could use an extra pair of hands. The work would be a mix of office stuff and helping around the house." "What kind of help around the house?" Riley asked carefully. "Cooking, cleaning, laundry. Nothing inappropriate," Cole said, reading her concern. "Linda lives in the main house. You'd have your own cabin about 100 yards away. It's small but comfortable with everything you'd need." Riley studied his face, looking for any sign that this was too good to be true. Why would you help me? You don't even know me. Cole smiled, that same gentle smile from the night before. My dad always said you can tell a lot about a person by how they handle hard times. You could have stolen food or made a scene in here last night. Instead, you sat quietly and tried to make a cup of coffee last an hour. That tells me you're decent people. What would the pay be? Room, board, and $400 a week to start. After a month, if things work out, we can talk about more. Riley's coffee cup trembled in her hands. $400 a week was more than she'd made at the library. With no rent or food costs, she could actually save money. Maybe even pay off some of her parents' debts. There's got to be a catch, she said. No catch. Just honest work for honest pay. Cole's voice was steady, sincere. Look, I'll be straight with you. I've got a big spread, and it's a lot for one person to manage. Linda's been with my family for 20 years, but she's slowing down. I need someone I can trust to help keep things running smooth. How do I know I can trust you? You don't, Cole said simply. But Linda will be there the whole time. She's tougher than she looks and doesn't put up with any nonsense from anybody, including me. You'd be perfectly safe. Riley looked around the diner at the faces of the other customers. Some were still watching her with curiosity or disapproval. She thought about spending another night sleeping outside, about the long, uncertain road ahead if she stayed in town with no job and no money. When would I start? Today, if you want. I can drive you out to meet Linda and see the place. If you don't like what you see, I'll bring you back to town, no questions asked. Riley took a deep breath. Every instinct told her to be careful, but something about Cole seemed genuine. And what choice did she really have? Okay, she said. I'd like to see the ranch. Cole's smile was like sunrise. Great, let me just finish my coffee and we'll head out. 20 minutes later, Riley was sitting in the passenger seat of Cole's pickup truck, watching the Texas countryside roll by through clean windows. The truck was nice but not flashy. A working vehicle that had seen plenty of use but was well maintained. Tell me about your ranch, Riley said, trying to fill the silence. It's been in my family for 3 generations, Cole said. My great-grandfather started with just a section of land and built it up from there. Now we run about 1,500 head of cattle on 12,000 acres. That sounds like a lot. It is, but it's good land and the cattle do well here. We sell beef to restaurants and grocery stores all over Texas. Do you have family helping you? Cole's hands tightened slightly on the steering wheel. No, it's just me now. My parents died in a plane crash 5 years ago. I was supposed to get married around that time, but he trailed off. What happened? She decided ranch life wasn't for her after all. Can't say I blame her. It's a hard life, especially for someone who didn't grow up with it. Riley heard the pain in his voice and decided not to push. They drove in comfortable silence for a while, past fields of cattle and rolling hills covered in oak trees. When they crested a hill, Riley saw the ranch spread out below them. The main house was beautiful, a long, low building with a wraparound porch and big windows. There were several barns, a stable, and other outbuildings scattered around a central area. Everything looked well-maintained and prosperous. It's beautiful, Riley said softly. I like to think so, Cole said. Home is what you make it. As they pulled up to the main house, an older woman came out onto the porch. She was small and wiry, with silver hair pulled back in a practical bun and sharp eyes that missed nothing. That's Linda, Cole said. Fair warning, she speaks her mind. Linda walked over to the truck as they got out. She looked Riley up and down with the practiced eye of someone who'd been judging character for 70 years. So you're the girl Cole's been talking about, Linda said. Her voice was crisp but not unkind. Yes, ma'am. I'm Riley Chen. Chinese? Half. My father was Chinese-American. My mother was from here in Texas. Linda nodded approvingly. Good mix. Chinese folks know how to work hard and Texas women don't give up easy. You'll need both if you're going to make it out here. Cole grinned. Linda, why don't you show Riley around while I take care of some things in the barn? Let her see what she'd be getting into. For the next hour, Linda gave Riley a tour of the house and explained what the job would involve. The work seemed manageable, keeping books for the ranch business, helping with meals and cleaning, managing supplies and schedules. Cole's a good man, Linda said as they walked through the kitchen. Lost his way a bit after his parents died and that girl broke his heart, but he's finding himself again. This place needs life in it, needs someone who understands that a home is more than just a house. What happened to his fiancée, Bethany Morrison? Rich girl from Dallas whose daddy owns oil wells. She loved the idea of marrying a rancher until she realized it meant living like one. Lasted 6 months after the wedding was called off. Then married a banker and moved to the city. Linda showed Riley the cabin where she'd live, a cozy one-room space with a kitchenette, bathroom, and sleeping area. It was simple but clean, with handmade quilts on the bed and wildflowers in a jar on the table. "It's perfect," Riley said, and meant it. When Cole returned, Linda gave him a sharp nod. "She'll do," was all she said, but Riley could tell it was high praise. "So," Cole said, "what do you think? Want to give it a try?" Riley looked around at the ranch, at Linda's approving face, at the honest hope in Cole's eyes. For the first time in months, she felt like maybe things might work out. "Yes," she said, "I'd like to stay." "Then welcome to Harrison Ranch," Cole said. "You're safe here." And somehow Riley believed him. Riley's first week at Harrison Ranch felt like stepping into a different world. She woke up each morning in her small cabin to the sound of birds singing and cattle lowing in the distance. It was peaceful in a way she'd forgotten existed. The work wasn't easy, but it was honest. She spent her mornings in Cole's office, a cluttered room in the main house filled with filing cabinets and stacks of papers that hadn't been properly organized in months. The previous bookkeeper had left things in a mess, and Riley threw herself into sorting it out. "Good grief," Linda said, bringing her coffee on the third day. "I haven't seen that desk clear in 2 years." Riley had always been good with numbers and organization. In high school, she'd helped her dad organize the farm's finances, creating spreadsheets to track expenses and income. Her parents had been smart people, but paperwork wasn't their strong suit. Working through Cole's books, she started to understand the scope of Harrison Ranch. It was bigger than she'd realized, not just cattle, but also hay production, equipment leasing to smaller farms, and even a small oil royalty from a well drilled years ago. The ranch made good money, but Cole was losing some of it to inefficient systems and missed opportunities. "You found something," Cole said one afternoon, walking into the office to find Riley frowning at a stack of invoices. "You're paying too much for feed supplements," Riley said. "This company's been increasing their prices every few months, but there are 2 other suppliers offering the same products for 30% less." Cole looked over her shoulder at the papers. "I've been using Morrison feed for 15 years. My dad used them before me." "Loyalty's good," Riley said carefully, "but they're taking advantage of it. You could save almost $8,000 a year just by switching suppliers." "Show me." Riley spread out her research, price comparisons, quality reviews, delivery schedules. She'd spent 2 days on the phone gathering information and building a case. Cole studied the numbers for a long time. "You did all this in 2 days?" "I like solving puzzles," Riley said, "and I hate seeing money wasted. My dad always said the numbers don't lie." Cole smiled. "Make the switch, and see what other money we're throwing away." As the days passed, Riley found her rhythm. Mornings were for bookkeeping and office work. Afternoons, she helped Linda with the house and cooking. Evenings, she often sat on her cabin's small porch, watching the sunset paint the hills gold and purple. Cole was a good boss, and she was starting to realize, a good man. He worked as hard as any of his ranch hands, often coming in dirty and exhausted from mending fences or dealing with sick cattle, but he always had time to check on Linda, to ask Riley how she was settling in, to make sure everyone was taken care of. The other ranch hands had been suspicious at first. Riley heard their whispered conversations. Who was this girl? And why was the boss giving her special treatment? But when she proved she could work hard and wasn't putting on airs, they gradually accepted her. "You're not what we expected," said Tommy, the ranch foreman. He was a weathered man in his 50s who'd worked for Cole's father before him. "What did you expect?" Tommy grinned. "Some city girl looking for a sugar daddy. But you actually know what you're doing." Riley had been at the ranch for 2 weeks when Cole made an announcement that surprised everyone. "I'm throwing a barbecue this Saturday," he said over dinner. Linda insisted that Riley join them for meals, saying the kitchen table was too big for just her and Cole anyway. "What's the occasion?" Linda asked. "No occasion. Just feels like time to have folks over. Haven't done that in a while." Linda and Riley exchanged glances. Cole had been different lately, lighter somehow, more like the man he probably was before life knocked him down. Saturday came with perfect weather. Riley helped Linda prepare enough food for a small army. Brisket, ribs, corn on the cob, 3 kinds of beans, and pies that smelled like heaven. By late afternoon, trucks were pulling up the long driveway. Riley recognized some faces from town. Betty from the diner, the manager from the hardware store, several ranch families from the area. But there were also people she didn't know, and some of them looked at her with curiosity that made her uncomfortable. "That's the girl Cole took in," she heard someone whisper. "Pretty little thing. Wonder what the real story is there." Riley felt her cheeks burn and started to retreat toward the kitchen, but Linda caught her arm. "Don't you dare hide," the older woman said firmly. "You belong here same as anybody else." The barbecue was in full swing when a car Riley didn't recognize pulled up. It was expensive, a sleek sedan that looked out of place among the pickup trucks and SUVs. A woman got out and Riley heard conversations around the yard suddenly get quieter. She was beautiful in the way that money could make someone beautiful. Perfect hair, perfect makeup, clothes that probably cost more than Riley had ever owned. She moved through the crowd like she owned the place, accepting greetings and air kisses from people who seemed to know her well. "Bethany Morrison," Linda said quietly, appearing at Riley's elbow. "Cole's ex-fiancée." Riley watched as Bethany made her way straight to Cole, who was manning the grill. She couldn't hear their conversation, but she could see Cole's body language change. His shoulders tensed, his smile became polite but distant. "What's she doing here?" Riley asked. "Making trouble, most likely," Linda muttered. Girl never could stand not being the center of attention. Bethany stayed close to Cole for the rest of the evening, touching his arm when she talked, laughing too loud at things that weren't that funny. Riley tried to focus on helping Linda serve food and cleaning up, but she found herself watching the pair. Whenever she thought nobody would notice, "You shouldn't let her get to you," said a voice behind her. Riley turned to find a woman about, her own age with kind eyes and a friendly smile. "I'm sorry?" "Bethany Morrison. I saw you watching them." "I'm Kate Williams, by the way. My husband owns the ranch north of here." "Riley Chen. And I wasn't really watching." Kate laughed. "Honey, every woman here is watching. She's got her hooks out for Cole again, and we're all wondering what he's going to do about it." "It's none of my business what Cole does, isn't it?" Kate's eyes were sharp but not unkind. "You're living here, working here. Girl like that gets her claws back in Cole, your life's going to change." Riley felt a chill that had nothing to do with the evening breeze. "What do you mean?" "Bethany Morrison doesn't share well with others, and she's got a talent for making people feel unwelcome." As if summoned by their conversation, Bethany appeared beside them. Up close, she was even more intimidating, perfectly made up, wearing clothes that probably cost more than Riley made in a month. "You must be Riley," Bethany said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Cole's told me all about you. How charitable of him to take you in during your time of need." The words were polite, but the tone made it clear what Bethany really thought. Riley was charity case, a temporary inconvenience. "Cole's been very kind," Riley said carefully. "Oh, he's always had a soft spot for strays," Bethany said. "Remember that three-legged dog he insisted on keeping, Cole?" Cole had appeared behind Bethany, and Riley could see the irritation in his eyes. "That dog lived 15 good years," he said evenly. "Of course it did. You take such good care of the things you rescue." Bethany's smile was sharp as a knife. "Though I imagine Riley's situation is temporary. A girl with her education and background won't want to stay buried in the country forever." "Actually," Riley said, finding her voice, "I love it here. It feels like home." Something flickered in Bethany's eyes. Surprise, maybe, or annoyance. How sweet. "Though I suppose anywhere would feel like home after what you've been through." The words hit their mark, and Riley felt heat rise in her cheeks. Kate stepped closer, a show of support, but the damage was done. Bethany had reminded everyone exactly what Riley was, a woman with nothing who depended on Cole's charity. "If you'll excuse me," Riley said quietly, "I should help Linda clean up." She walked away with as much dignity as she could manage, feeling Bethany's satisfied gaze on her back. In the kitchen, Linda was loading dishes into the dishwasher with more force than necessary. "That woman's got a nerve showing up here," Linda muttered. "She's beautiful," Riley said, trying to keep her voice neutral. "Beautiful like a snake is beautiful, all shine on the outside, poison underneath." She and Cole seemed to know each other well. Linda stopped loading dishes and looked at Riley directly. That woman broke Cole's heart and then stomped on the pieces. She decided ranch life wasn't glamorous enough for her, so she called off their wedding 2 weeks before it was supposed to happen. Then she spent the next year telling everyone in Dallas how boring and backward Cole was. Then why is she here? Because her marriage to that banker didn't work out the way she planned. He turned out to be a cheater and a gambler, lost most of her daddy's money in bad investments. Now she's divorced and looking for a soft place to land. Through the kitchen window, Riley could see Cole and Bethany talking by the grill. Bethany had her hand on Cole's arm again, standing close enough that her perfume probably lingered on his clothes. "He's going to take her back, isn't he?" Riley asked quietly. Linda's face was grim. "I don't know. Cole's a good man, but he's also a lonely one, and that woman knows exactly which buttons to push." The week after the barbecue felt different. Cole was distracted, taking phone calls that he answered in another room and driving into town more often than usual. Riley tried to focus on her work, but she couldn't shake the feeling that change was coming. Bethany Morrison had called 3 times that week. Riley knew because she answered the office phone, and Bethany never bothered to hide her irritation when Riley's voice came on the line instead of Cole's. "This is Bethany Morrison for Cole Harrison," she would say, her tone making it clear that Riley was just an obstacle between her and what she wanted. "I'll let him know you called," Riley would reply politely, taking messages that Cole never seemed eager to return. Despite the tension, Riley threw herself into the ranch work with renewed determination. If her time here was limited, she wanted to leave the place better than she'd found it. She spent long hours organizing Cole's filing system, creating digital backups of important documents, and setting up new spreadsheets to track everything from cattle health records to equipment maintenance schedules. The ranch had been profitable before, but Riley could see dozens of ways to make it more efficient. "You've been working late again," Linda said, bringing coffee to the office where Riley was updating vendor contracts. "I found another supplier who can cut our veterinary costs by 20%, Riley said, showing Linda the research. "And if we switch to bulk buying on 3 different products, we'll save enough to afford that new tractor Cole's been talking about." Linda studied the numbers with the same sharp attention she gave everything else. "You've got a good head for this," she said finally. "Better than good. My parents taught me that every dollar saved is a dollar earned. Smart people, your parents." Riley felt the familiar pang of loss but pushed through it. "I think they would have liked it here. Dad always said ranchers and farmers were cut from the same cloth. What would they think of Cole?" The question caught Riley off guard. "What do you mean?" Linda's eyes were knowing. "Child, I've been watching people for 70 years. I see how you look at him when you think nobody's watching, and I see how he looks at you." Riley felt heat rise in her cheeks. "Cole's my boss, and he's got other things on his mind right now. Like that Morrison woman, it's none of my business. Everything that happens on this ranch is your business now," Linda said firmly. "You're not just working here anymore, Riley. You're living here. This is your home, too." But even as Linda said it, Riley wondered if it was true. Could someone like her really make a home in a place like this? Or was she just fooling herself? The answer came sooner than she expected. On Friday morning, Cole announced he was driving to Dallas for the weekend. "Business meetings," he said vaguely, not meeting Riley's eyes. Linda snorted. "Business, my foot. That woman's got her hooks in him again." After Cole left, the ranch felt emptier somehow. Riley and Linda maintained their routines. But there was an elephant in the room neither of them wanted to discuss. Saturday evening, Riley was in the barn checking on a horse that had been favoring its left front leg when she heard a car pull up. Her heart jumped, thinking Cole had come back early. But when she looked out, she saw Bethany's sedan in the driveway. Bethany got out of the car like she owned the place, looking around with the satisfaction of someone surveying her domain. She was dressed casually, or what passed for casual when your clothes came from expensive stores. Even her jeans probably cost more than Riley made in a week. "Where's Cole?" Bethany demanded when Riley emerged from the barn. "He's not here," Riley said. "He went to Dallas." Bethany's smile was triumphant. "I know, we had dinner last night. Lovely little place in Deep Ellum that we used to go to when we were engaged." Riley kept her expression neutral, but inside, her heart sank. "Was there something you needed?" "Actually, yes. I came to talk to you." Riley waited, every instinct telling her to be careful. "Cole and I have been talking," Bethany continued, "about our future, about giving things another try." "That's between you and Cole." "Is it? Because from where I'm standing, you're complicating things." Riley crossed her arms. "I don't know what you mean." "Oh, come on. You're not stupid, even if you are desperate. You're living here working closely with Cole, playing house with him and that old woman. It looks inappropriate. There's nothing inappropriate about honest work. Bethany laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Honest work? Honey, let's not pretend this is just about bookkeeping. You're a pretty girl in a vulnerable situation, and Cole's always been a sucker for a sob story. Riley felt anger rise in her chest, hot and defensive. Cole offered me a job. Nothing more, for now. But men are simple creatures, and you're convenient. Living right here, grateful for everything he's done for you. It would be so easy for lines to get blurred. That would never happen, wouldn't it? Because I think you're already half in love with him. And Cole, well, Cole's lonely. He's been lonely since I left. But loneliness isn't love, and convenience isn't compatibility. Riley wanted to argue, to defend herself, but Bethany's words hit too close to home. Was she in love with Cole? The thought scared her more than Bethany's threats. Here's the thing, Bethany continued. Cole and I have history. We have the same background, the same social circle. I understand his world in a way you never could. And when we work things out, not if, when, your presence here is going to be awkward for everyone. Are you asking me to leave? I'm suggesting that a smart woman would see the writing on the wall. Cole's being kind to you now, but kindness has limits. Eventually, he's going to want his real life back. His life with someone who belongs in it. Riley stood there, feeling small and out of place in her work clothes and muddy boots. Bethany looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine, even in casual wear. Everything about her screamed money, breeding, the kind of life Riley had only seen in movies. I need this job, Riley said quietly. There are other jobs, other places. A girl with your circumstances should be grateful for any opportunity, not overstay her welcome in situations that could become uncomfortable. Before Riley could respond, Linda's voice cut through the evening air. Bethany Morrison, what are you doing on this property? Linda was walking toward them from the main house, moving with the purposeful stride of someone ready for a fight. Linda, lovely to see you again, Bethany said with fake sweetness. I was just having a chat with Riley here. I'll bet you were. The kind of chat that's none of your business to be having. Everything involving Cole is my business. Since when? You gave up that right when you left him standing at the altar. Bethany's perfect composure cracked slightly. That was years ago. People change. Circumstances change. Some things don't change, Linda said firmly. Like the fact that you don't belong here anymore. We'll see about that, Bethany said. She turned back to Riley. Think about what I said. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is get out of their way. She walked back to her car with the same confident stride, leaving Riley and Linda standing in the gathering dusk. Don't listen to a word that woman said, Linda told Riley once Bethany's car disappeared down the drive. What if she's right? What if I'm just complicating things for Cole? Linda turned to face Riley directly. Child, let me tell you something about Cole Harrison. I've known that boy since he was in diapers. I watched him grow up, watched him take over this ranch when he was barely 25, watched him get his heart broken and put himself back together. Linda, no, you listen. Cole's been sleepwalking through his life for 5 years, going through the motions, taking care of business, but not really living. Then you showed up and I've watched him wake up again. He smiles more. He talks more. He's got purpose again beyond just keeping the ranch running. Riley wanted to believe Linda's words, but doubt gnawed at her. Bethany said they had dinner in Dallas, that they're working things out. Did Cole tell you that? No. Then don't assume you know what it means. Cole's a polite man. If she called and asked to see him, he'd probably agree out of courtesy. Doesn't mean he's ready to take her back. That night, Riley couldn't sleep. She kept replaying Bethany's words, examining them for truth. Was she really just a convenience for Cole? A temporary solution to his loneliness? When Cole returned Sunday afternoon, he seemed different, quieter, more thoughtful. He didn't mention his trip to Dallas, and Riley didn't ask. Over the next few days, they fell back into their usual routine, but something had shifted. Cole was polite but distant, and Riley found herself walking on eggshells, afraid to say or do anything that might be misinterpreted. Wednesday morning, she was in the office working on quarterly tax preparations when Cole knocked on the doorframe. Got a minute? He asked, Riley's heart hammered. Of course. Cole sat down across from her desk, running his hands through his hair in a gesture she'd learned meant he was struggling with something. I owe you an explanation, he said finally. No, you don't. Your personal life is your business. When it affects you, it becomes your business too. Cole met her eyes. Bethany wants to get back together. Riley felt like someone had punched her in the stomach, but she kept her voice steady. What did you tell her? That I needed time to think. Riley nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Riley, Cole said quietly, I need you to know that whatever happens with Bethany. 2 weeks passed in a strange kind of limbo. Cole hadn't mentioned Bethany again, but her presence hung over the ranch like storm clouds on the horizon. Riley threw herself into her work, organizing files with military precision and finding new ways to save money that impressed even Linda. The breakthrough came on a Thursday evening in late October. Riley was in the office finishing up the monthly reports when she heard shouting outside. Through the window, she could see Cole and Tommy standing near the south pasture, both looking agitated. She grabbed her jacket and hurried outside. As she got closer, she could hear what they were arguing about. The fence is down in 3 places, Tommy was saying. Must have happened during that storm last night. We've got about 50 head scattered all over creation. How many men can we spare to round them up? Cole asked. That's the problem. Jake's got the flu and Miguel's wife just had her baby. With the others handling the north pasture repairs, I've only got 2 boys available. Cole ran his hands through his hair. We need those cattle back before they wander onto Highway 87. If someone hits one of them, I can help, Riley said. Both men turned to look at her. Tommy's expression was skeptical, but Cole just looked tired. Riley, you don't know anything about herding cattle, Cole said gently. Then teach me. You need extra hands and I'm available. It's harder than it looks, Tommy warned, and potentially dangerous. These aren't pet cows, they're 1,500 pounds of muscle and not much brain. I'm not afraid of hard work, Riley said, and I grew up around animals. My dad had horses. Cole studied her face in the fading light. You sure about this? I'm sure. An hour later, Riley was mounted on Daisy, the gentlest horse in Cole's stable, following him and 2 ranch hands across the dark pasture. She'd ridden before, but never like this. Scanning the darkness for the gleam of eyes, listening for the sound of cattle moving through brush. There, Cole said quietly, pointing toward a grove of oak trees. I count 12 head. The work was harder than Riley had imagined. The cattle didn't want to be herded, especially in the dark. They scattered and regrouped, turned back when you least expected it, and seemed determined to go anywhere except where you wanted them to go. But Riley discovered she had good instincts for it. Maybe it was growing up around her dad's horses, or maybe it was just common sense, but she quickly learned to anticipate which way a steer might bolt and position herself to block its path. Not bad for a city girl, called out Hector, one of the younger ranch hands, after Riley successfully turned a stubborn bull back toward the group. I'm not from the city, Riley called back, feeling oddly proud. They worked until nearly midnight, gathering the scattered cattle and repairing the worst of the fence damage by flashlight. By the time they rode back to the barn, Riley was exhausted, dirty and sore in places she'd forgotten existed. You did good out there, Cole said as they unsaddled the horses. His voice was warm with approval, and Riley felt a glow that had nothing to do with the physical exertion. Thanks for letting me help. Thanks for offering. We couldn't have done it without the extra hands. As they walked back toward the house, Cole was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, Most people wouldn't have volunteered for that, especially not someone who's never done it before. Most people don't understand what it means to lose something you can't afford to lose, Riley said. Those cattle represent your livelihood. I get that. Cole stopped walking and looked at her. You really do, don't you? Get what? This life. What it takes to make it work. Riley felt something shift between them, like a door opening that had been closed before. I'm learning. The next morning, Riley woke up stiff and sore but oddly satisfied. She'd earned her place on the ranch in a new way, proved she could do more than just bookkeeping. Over breakfast, Linda fussed over her like a mother hen. Look at these bruises on your arms, she said, examining scratches from mesquite branches. You should have been more careful. I'm fine, Riley protested. Just a few scratches. You're tougher than you look, Cole said, grinning over his coffee. Tommy was impressed. Said you've got natural instincts. Riley felt a flush of pride. Tommy didn't impress easily. The day proceeded normally until mid-afternoon when Riley was updating inventory records and heard a commotion outside. Through the office window, she saw a truck she didn't recognize parked near the barn, and Cole talking animatedly with a man in the expensive suit. She couldn't hear the conversation, but Cole's body language told the story. Tense shoulders, crossed arms, the stance of someone who didn't like what he was hearing. 20 minutes later, Cole came into the office looking troubled. "Everything okay?" Riley asked. Cole sat down heavily in the chair across from her desk. "Remember that oil well I mentioned? The one that pays royalties?" "Yes. There's a company wants to drill more wells on the ranch." "A lot more wells." Riley studied his face. "That sounds like it could be good financially." "Could be. They're offering serious money, enough to set up the ranch for generations." "But," Cole smiled ruefully, "you know me too well already." "But it would change everything. Heavy equipment, noise, truck traffic. This place would never be the same." "What are you going to do?" "I don't know. My dad always said the land comes first, but—" He trailed off, looking out the window at the pastures where cattle grazed peacefully. "But," Riley prompted, "but I've got responsibilities. To the ranch, to the people who work here. To Linda, who's been like family since I was a kid. If something happened to me, what would happen to all of you?" Riley felt a chill. "Why would something happen to you? Ranching's a dangerous business. Accidents happen, and I don't have any family to leave this place to." Cole's voice was matter-of-fact, but Riley heard the loneliness underneath. "You could have a family," she said quietly. "Could I? With who?" Cole met her eyes. "Bethany made it clear that ranch life isn't what she wants, and most women aren't interested in marrying someone whose idea of a good time is checking fence lines and worrying about cattle prices." Riley wanted to say that some women might find that kind of dedication attractive, might want to be part of building something lasting and meaningful, but she didn't trust herself to say it without revealing too much. "You don't have to decide about the oil wells today," she said instead. "No, but I can't put it off forever. They want an answer by next month." That evening, Riley found Cole sitting on the front porch steps, staring out at the sunset. Without really thinking about it, she sat down beside him. "Penny for your thoughts," she said. Cole smiled. "Just thinking about my dad? He used to sit right here every evening, no matter how busy the day had been. Said you couldn't understand a place until you'd watched it change with the light. Sounds like a wise man. He was. Built this ranch from almost nothing. Never took shortcuts, always thought about the long term." Cole picked up a handful of gravel and tossed it into the yard. "I wonder what he'd think about the oil wells. What does your gut tell you? That some things are worth more than money." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the sky turn from gold to deep purple. Riley was acutely aware of Cole's presence beside her, the warmth of his arm nearly touching hers, the familiar scent of his cologne mixed with the honest smell of someone who worked with his hands. "Can I ask you something?" Cole said eventually. "Sure. Do you ever think about leaving here?" Riley's heart skipped. "Do you want me to leave?" "No," Cole said quickly. "God, no. This place runs better than it has in years because of you, but I know this isn't the life you planned for yourself." "Plans change," Riley said. "Sometimes for the better." "Is this better? Living out here working for someone else instead of pursuing your own dreams?" Riley thought about it seriously. "I used to think I knew what I wanted. College, maybe a career in business, living in a city somewhere. But that was before I understood what it felt like to be part of something bigger than myself." "What do you mean?" "This ranch isn't just your business, it's your legacy. Everything your family built, everything you're building. Being part of that, helping it succeed. It matters in a way my old dreams never did." Cole was quiet for a long moment. "I never thought about it like that. Your dad was right about thinking long-term. But long-term isn't just about preserving what you have. It's about making sure it can grow and change and survive whatever comes next." "Including oil wells?" Riley smiled. "Including whatever decisions feel right to you. Trust your instincts, Cole. They've served you well so far." As if her words had given him permission, Cole began talking about his father, his childhood on the ranch, the dreams and fears that kept him awake at night. Riley listened, offering occasional questions or observations, feeling honored that he trusted her with his thoughts. "I've never talked to anyone like this," Cole said as the first stars appeared. "Not even Bethany. She always wanted to talk about parties or people, never about the things that really mattered." "Everyone needs someone to talk to," Riley said. "Someone who understands what matters to you. Do you?" "Understand, I mean." Riley looked at him, really looked at him. The strong line of his jaw, the calluses on his hands from years of hard work, the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled. But more than that, she saw his character written in everything he did. The morning after her conversation with Cole on the porch, Riley woke up feeling like something fundamental had shifted. The way Cole had looked at her, the things he'd shared, it felt like the beginning of something real. But as she got dressed and walked to the main house for breakfast, she tried to keep her expectations in check. Cole was already at the kitchen table when she arrived, but he seemed different, distant, almost formal. He greeted her politely, discussed the day's work schedule, and excused himself quickly to check on the cattle. Riley caught Linda watching the interaction with sharp eyes. "Everything all right between you two?" Linda asked once Cole was gone. "I think so," Riley said, though she wasn't sure. Linda's tone suggested she'd noticed the strange atmosphere too. The day passed quietly, with Cole spending most of his time in the far pastures, and Riley focused on the quarterly reports. She was beginning to think she'd imagined the connection from the night before when Cole appeared in the office doorway around 4 o'clock. "I have to drive into Dallas tonight," he said without preamble. "Business dinner?" Riley looked up from her computer. "Okay, do you need me to prepare anything?" "No, it's all handled." Cole's voice was carefully neutral. "I'll probably stay overnight. Be back tomorrow afternoon." After he left, Riley tried to focus on her work, but something nagged at her. Cole had seemed nervous, almost guilty. And why drive all the way to Dallas for a dinner meeting? Most of his business contacts came to him. Her question was answered the next morning when Linda came into the office with coffee and a grim expression. "Kate Williams called," Linda said without preamble. Her husband saw Cole at some fancy restaurant in Dallas last night. He wasn't alone. Riley's stomach dropped. "Bethany?" "Bethany. Looking real cozy, according to Kate." Riley tried to keep her voice steady. "It's none of my business what Cole does in his personal time," Linda snorted. "Child, everything that happens to Cole is your business. You're in love with him." The words hit Riley like a physical blow. "Linda, don't even try to deny it. I've got eyes, and I've been watching you two dance around each other for weeks. Question is, what are you going to do about it?" "What can I do?" "He's with Bethany, is he? Or is he just confused about what he wants?" Before Riley could answer, they heard a car coming up the drive. Through the window, Riley saw not Cole's truck but Bethany's sedan. Her heart sank further. Bethany got out of the car looking like she'd stepped out of a fashion magazine. Perfectly styled hair, designer clothes, and the satisfied smile of a woman who'd gotten what she wanted. She walked to the front door like she owned the place. Linda went to answer the door, and Riley heard voices in the hallway. Bethany's bright laugh, Linda's carefully polite responses. Then footsteps approached the office. "Riley, darling," Bethany said, appearing in the doorway. "So good to see you again." Riley stood up from her desk. "Bethany, Cole's not here right now." "Oh, I know. He's stopping by my hotel to pick up some things I left behind." Bethany's smile was triumphant. "We had the most wonderful evening last night." Just like old times. Riley felt sick but kept her expression neutral. "I'm glad you had a nice time. More than nice. Cole and I did so much talking about the past, about the future, about what went wrong between us and how we can fix it." Bethany moved further into the office, claiming space like she belonged there. "That's between you and Cole." "Is it? Because I get the feeling you've developed some feelings about Cole, and I'd hate for things to get awkward." Riley's hands clenched at her sides. "I don't know what you mean." "Come on, Riley, we're both women here. I see how you look at him. And Cole's mentioned how helpful you've been, how you really understand ranch life." Bethany's tone made it clear what she thought of that. "Cole's a good boss." "He is, and he's going to be a wonderful husband." Again. Bethany held up her left hand and Riley's heart stopped. There, on Bethany's ring finger, was a beautiful diamond engagement ring. "He proposed?" Riley's voice came out as barely a whisper. "Last night over dessert at our favorite restaurant, the same place he first told me he loved me." Bethany admired the ring, turning her hand to catch the light. "I said yes, of course. We're going to do it right this time." Riley felt like the floor had dropped out from under her. She gripped the edge of her desk to keep from swaying. "Congratulations," she managed to say. "Thank you. I know this must be disappointing for you, But I'm sure you understand that things will need to change now. It wouldn't be appropriate for Cole to have a single woman living on the property, especially one he's grown so close to. Riley's mind was reeling. He asked me to leave? Oh, Cole's too much of a gentleman to say it directly. But we both know it would be for the best. I'm sure he'll give you excellent references. A girl with your skills shouldn't have trouble finding another position. I see. Riley felt numb, like she was watching this conversation happen to someone else. I hope there are no hard feelings, Bethany continued. You've been very helpful during Cole's transition period, but now he needs to focus on building a future with someone who truly belongs in his world. The words stung because they echoed Riley's own fears. She didn't belong in Cole's world. She was just a girl who'd shown up with nothing, and now she'd have to leave with nothing again. When does he want me to go? Riley asked quietly. Well, there's no rush. Take a week or two to find something else. Cole's very generous about these things. After Bethany left, Riley sat in the office chair feeling hollowed out. Everything she'd built here, everything she'd hoped for, it was all disappearing again. Just like when she lost her parents, when she lost the farm, when Danny left her. People came into her life and then they left, and she was always the one left behind with nothing. Linda appeared in the doorway, took one look at Riley's face and closed the door behind her. What did that woman say to you? Riley told her about the engagement, about Bethany's expectation that she would leave. Linda's face grew darker with every word. That manipulative little snake, Linda said when Riley finished. I don't believe a word of it. She had a ring, Linda, a big diamond ring. Rings can be bought by anyone. Doesn't mean Cole gave it to her. Why would she lie about something like that? Because she's desperate. Because she knows Cole's slipping away from her and she's trying to eliminate the competition. Riley shook her head. I'm not competition for someone like Bethany Morrison. Look at her. She's beautiful, wealthy, from the same social circle as Cole. She belongs here in a way I never could. Belonging isn't about money or social circles, Linda said fiercely. It's about understanding what matters, about being willing to work for something bigger than yourself. You belong here more than she ever could. But Riley was already pulling up job search websites on her computer. I need to start looking for other positions. Riley, don't do this. Don't let that woman drive you away without even talking to Cole. What's the point? If he's engaged to her, then he's made his choice. And if he hasn't? If she's lying? Riley looked at Linda's determined face and felt a flicker of hope. But then she remembered Bethany's confident smile, the way she'd flaunted that ring. Then I'll deal with that when Cole gets back. But I need to be prepared for the possibility that she's telling the truth. The rest of the day dragged by. Riley mechanically updated files and returned phone calls, but her heart wasn't in it. She kept glancing at the driveway, dreading and hoping for Cole's return. When his truck finally appeared around 6 o'clock, Riley watched from the office window as he parked and walked toward the house. He looked tired, and there was something in his posture that seemed defeated. Or was she just seeing what she wanted to see? Cole came into the office a few minutes later. Hey, he said, not quite meeting her eyes. How was everything while I was gone? Fine. Bethany stopped by. Cole's head snapped up. She what? She came by around noon. Said she was picking up some things from your hotel. Riley studied his face, looking for any sign of guilt or happiness or anything that might tell her what was really going on. Cole ran his hands through his hair. Riley, I need to talk to you about something. Riley's heart hammered. Okay, not here. Can you meet me on the porch after dinner? There are some things I need to explain. The hours until dinner felt like days. Riley picked at her food, barely participating in Linda's attempts at conversation. Cole seemed equally distracted, answering Linda's questions about his trip in monosyllables. Finally, as the sun was setting, Riley found Cole waiting on the porch steps where they'd sat just 2 nights before, but this time everything felt different. Riley, Cole began, then stopped. This is harder than I thought it would be. Riley braced herself. Just say it, Cole. Bethany and we talked a lot last night. About the past, about what went wrong between us, she told me. About the engagement, Cole's head whipped up. The what? She showed me the ring. Congratulations. Ring? Riley, what ring? I didn't give Bethany a ring. Riley stared at him. She had a diamond ring on her left hand. Said you proposed last night at dinner. Cole's face went through a series of emotions, confusion, realization, and then anger. That lying, manipulative. He stood up abruptly. Riley, I did not propose to Bethany Morrison. I went to Dallas to tell her that I couldn't see her anymore. You what? The weeks following Cole and Riley's first kiss were like living in a beautiful dream. They kept their relationship quiet, not wanting to complicate the ranch dynamics or deal with outside opinions before they were sure of what they had together. Riley moved through her days with a lightness she hadn't felt in years. Cole would find excuses to stop by the office, bringing her coffee or asking questions about reports he could have answered himself. In the evenings, they would sit on the porch talking about everything and nothing, sharing stories about their childhoods, their dreams, their fears. Linda noticed the change immediately. "Of course, you two are glowing like teenagers," she said one morning, refilling Riley's coffee cup with a knowing smile. "About time you both came to your senses." "We're trying to take things slow," Riley said, feeling heat rise in her cheeks. "Slow is good. But don't take so long that you miss what's right in front of you." Riley was learning what Linda meant. Being with Cole felt natural in a way that surprised her. He made her laugh with his dry humor, challenged her thinking about ranch management, and listened to her ideas with genuine interest. When he held her hand or kissed her goodnight, it felt like coming home, but their peaceful bubble was about to burst. It started with small things. Phone calls that Cole took in private, a trip to town that lasted longer than usual, an air of distraction that he tried to hide but couldn't quite manage. "Is everything okay?" Riley asked one evening as they walked around the barn after dinner. "Just business stuff," Cole said, but he wouldn't meet her eyes. Riley had learned to read his moods, and something was definitely bothering him. But before she could press further, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Having second thoughts yet? Some people know when they don't belong." Riley stared at the message, her stomach churning. "It had to be from Bethany. What is it?" Cole asked, noticing her expression. Riley showed him the text. Cole's face darkened as he read it. "I'll handle this," he said grimly. "Cole, don't. It's just words. It's harassment, and I won't have her bothering you." But over the next few days, the messages continued. Photos of Cole and Bethany together from years past, with captions like, "Some things never change and true love always finds a way." Articles about successful ranch families, with pointed comments about appropriate partnerships and maintaining social standing. Riley tried to ignore them, but they wore at her confidence like water on stone. Each message reinforced her own secret fears, that she was fooling herself, that someone like Cole deserved better than someone like her. The breaking point came on a Friday evening in November. Riley was in her cabin, reading and trying to ignore the latest round of messages when she heard vehicles approaching the main house. Through her window, she could see several cars and trucks parked in the driveway. She recognized some of the vehicles: neighbors, other ranchers, people from town. It looked like Cole was having some kind of meeting. Riley was debating whether to go see if Linda needed help when her phone rang. It was Cole. "Riley, I need you to come to the main house," he said. His voice was tight with stress. "Is everything okay? Just, please come. I'll explain everything." Riley walked to the main house with growing dread. Through the windows, she could see the living room full of people. As she approached the front door, she could hear raised voices. Cole met her at the door, his face grim. "I'm sorry about this," he said quietly, "but I think you should hear what's being said." He led her into the living room where about 15 people were gathered. Riley recognized most of them: neighboring ranchers, the banker from town, the feed store owner, even the mayor. They all turned to look at her when she entered, and the conversations died. Standing in the center of the room, holding court like a queen, was Bethany Morrison. "Riley," Bethany said with false warmth. "Perfect timing. We were just discussing the future of Harrison Ranch." Riley looked at Cole, confused. "What's going on?" "Bethany has been telling people that we're engaged," Cole said, his voice carefully controlled. "She's been using that lie to gather support for some changes." "She wants to make to the ranch. Changes?" Riley asked. Tom Bradley, who owned the neighboring ranch, spoke up. "She's talking about modernizing operations, bringing in investors, maybe even selling parts of the land for development." Riley felt cold. Cole would never agree to that, wouldn't he? Bethany smiled sweetly. "Cole's been under a lot of stress lately, making emotional decisions instead of practical ones. Sometimes it takes outside perspective to see what's really best for everyone." "What does that mean?" Riley demanded. Pete Morrison, Bethany's uncle and the bank president, cleared his throat. It means that some of us are concerned about the influence that certain people might be having on Cole's judgment. Riley realized with dawning horror that she was the certain people they were talking about. Now wait just a minute. Linda's voice cut through the tension. She had appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron and looking ready for battle. If you've got something to say about Riley, say it plain. Linda, Bethany said condescendingly, everyone knows how fond you are of your little project here. But surely even you can see that this situation is inappropriate. What situation? Linda demanded. A single woman with no family or background living on the ranch and clearly having an inappropriate relationship with Cole. It's the talk of the county. Riley felt like she'd been slapped. She looked around the room at the faces of people she'd thought were beginning to accept her. Some looked uncomfortable, others judgmental. A few seemed genuinely concerned. That's enough, Cole said, his voice dangerous. Is it? Bethany turned to face him. Cole, darling, I know you feel sorry for Riley, we all do. She's had a hard time and your kindness toward her is admirable. But surely you can see how this looks to people. I don't give a damn how it looks to people. But you should. Your reputation, the ranch's reputation, these things matter. They affect your business relationships, your standing in the community. Bob Jenkins, who owned the largest ranch in the county, nodded. Bethany's got a point, Cole. People talk. And when they talk, it affects all of us. Riley felt smaller with each word. These people saw her as a problem, an embarrassment, something that needed to be handled. This is ridiculous, Cole said. Riley works for me. She's the best bookkeeper I've ever had, and she's helped make this ranch more profitable than it's been in years. We're sure she's very talented, Pete Morrison said with a smirk that made Riley's skin crawl. But is that really the kind of reputation you want for Harrison Ranch? Riley couldn't take it anymore. Stop, she said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. Just stop, she said louder. Don't talk about me like I'm not here. Riley, Cole started. No. Riley looked around the room at all the judgmental faces. You want to know what I think? I think you're all scared. Scared that someone who started with nothing might actually belong here. Scared that hard work and honesty might matter more than family names and bank accounts. That's quite enough, Pete Morrison said sternly. Is it? Because I've been listening to all of you talk about reputation and appropriateness and what's best for Cole. But none of you bothered to ask Cole what he wants. Bethany's confidence flickered for just a moment. Of course we care what Cole wants. Do you? Because if you did, you'd know that Cole doesn't want to modernize or bring in investors or sell land to developers. You'd know that he values this ranch exactly as it is, as his family built it. Riley turned to face Cole directly. And you'd know that Cole is perfectly capable of making his own decisions about who he wants in his life. The room was dead silent. Riley could feel everyone's eyes on her. But she only cared about Cole's response. Cole stepped forward, and when he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone who'd been pushed too far. Riley's right, he said. I am capable of making my own decisions. And here are my decisions. First, Bethany and I are not engaged. We will never be engaged. I told her that weeks ago, but apparently the message didn't sink in. Bethany's face went white. Second, Harrison Ranch is not for sale. Not for development, not for investors, not for anyone. This land has been in my family for 3 generations and it's going to stay that way. Cole, Bob Jenkins started. I'm not finished. Cole cut him off. Third, Riley Chen is the best thing that's happened to this ranch in years. She's smart, hardworking, and she understands what this place means in a way that some of you never will. He moved to stand beside Riley, taking her hand in front of everyone. And fourth, Riley isn't just my employee. She's the woman I'm in love with. The woman I'm hoping to marry if she'll have me. The room erupted. Several people started talking at once. Bethany let out a strangled cry and Pete Morrison's face turned purple. But Riley barely heard any of it. She was staring at Cole, hardly believing what she'd just heard. You want to marry me? She whispered. Cole smiled. The first genuine smile she'd seen from him all week. I want to marry you, Riley Chen. I want to build a life with you. Raise a family with you and grow old with you on this ranch that we'll build together. Before Riley could respond, the front door burst open and Tommy came running in. His face streaked with soot and panic in his eyes. Boss, he shouted. The North Barn's on fire. We need every hand we can get. The morning after the fire, Riley woke up in her cabin with a sore throat, singed hair, and the biggest smile she'd worn in months. Through her window, she could see the blackened skeleton of the north barn, but also something else. Cole and Tommy and half a dozen other men already working to clear the debris. Linda appeared at her door with coffee and a knowing look. "How you feeling this morning?" "Future Mrs. Harrison?" Riley laughed, then winced as it made her throat hurt. Scared, happy, confused, all at the same time. That sounds about right for someone who just got engaged. "Linda, what if I made a mistake? What if those people last night were right? What if I don't belong here?" Linda sat down on the small couch and fixed Riley with a stern look. "Child, let me tell you something. I've been watching Cole Harrison since he was in diapers. I've seen him happy, sad, lost, and everything in between. And I have never, not once, seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. But Bethany Morrison is a selfish woman who wants what she can't have. She never loved Cole. She loved the idea of being married to a successful rancher. There's a difference." Riley sipped her coffee and watched Cole through the window. Even covered in soot and ash, he looked like everything she'd ever wanted. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now you plan a wedding?" Linda said with satisfaction. "And I get to help." The next few weeks were a whirlwind. The barn fire had actually done Riley and Cole an unexpected favor. The way they'd worked together to save the horses, the courage Riley had shown, had impressed even some of their harshest critics. People began to see her not as an outsider looking for handouts, but as someone willing to risk herself for what mattered. Pete Morrison and a few others continued to make disapproving noises, but they were outnumbered by neighbors who began to accept that Riley Chen belonged at Harrison Ranch. Bethany Morrison left town 3 days after the fire, but not before making one last attempt to cause trouble. She showed up at the ranch while Cole was in the far pastures, finding Riley in the office. "This isn't over," Bethany said without preamble. Riley looked up from the insurance paperwork she was filing for the barn. "Hello to you too, Bethany. You think you've won, but you don't understand what you're getting into. This life, this ranch, it's harder than you know. The isolation, the financial pressures, the constant worry about weather and cattle prices, and a dozen other things that could ruin you." "I know it's hard," Riley said calmly. "That's part of what makes it worthwhile. Cole will get tired of playing house with his charity case. And when he does, where will you be? Right back where you started, with nothing." Riley stood up from her desk and looked Bethany in the eye. "You know what the difference is between you and me? Enlighten me. You're afraid of having nothing. I've already had nothing, and I survived it. I built something from it. So whatever comes, I know I can handle it." Bethany's confidence flickered. "You're naive if you think love is enough." "Maybe, but I'm willing to find out." After Bethany left, Riley never saw her again. She heard through town gossip that Bethany had moved to Houston, then later to California. Riley felt sorry for her in a way. Bethany had never learned that real security came from building something with someone, not from finding someone who could provide for you. The wedding planning was simple and joyful. Riley and Cole decided on a small ceremony at the ranch in early spring, when the wildflowers would be blooming and the weather would be perfect for an outdoor celebration. "I want my parents to be here somehow," Riley told Cole one evening as they sat on the porch planning details. Cole was quiet for a moment. "Tell me about them. What would they have thought of all this?" Riley smiled, thinking about her parents. "My dad would have liked you. He respected men who worked hard and treated people fairly. And my mom." Riley's voice got soft with memory. "My mom always said that love wasn't about finding someone who could rescue you, but finding someone who made you want to be the best version of yourself. Do I do that for you?" Riley looked at the man who had taken her in when she had nothing, who had seen her potential when she couldn't see it herself, who had stood up to half the county to defend her. "Every day," she said. Cole reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "I was going to wait until our official engagement party next week. But..." Riley's heart stopped as he opened the box to reveal a simple, beautiful ring. Not the flashy diamond that Bethany had favored, but an elegant sapphire surrounded by small diamonds. "It was my grandmother's," Cole said. "She was a lot like you. Strong, practical, didn't put up with nonsense from anybody. My grandfather always said she made him a better man." Riley held out her shaking hand as Cole slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. How did you know my size? Cole grinned. Linda helped. She's been planning this wedding since about a week after you arrived. The engagement party the following weekend was everything the confrontation with Bethany hadn't been. Warm, welcoming, full of people who genuinely cared about Cole and Riley's happiness. Kate Williams organized the whole thing, determined to show the county that Riley was accepted and loved. Even some of the people who had been skeptical came around. Bob Jenkins approached Riley during the party with something that might have been an apology. I may have spoken out of turn that night, he said gruffly. Cole seems happy. Happier than I've seen him in years. Thank you, Riley said. That means a lot. You saved those horses, Bob continued. That took guts. Cole's lucky to have someone who'll stand with him when things get tough. As spring arrived and the wedding approached, Riley threw herself into the final preparations. She'd found a simple dress at a shop in Austin. Nothing fancy, but beautiful in its simplicity. Linda insisted on making the cake, and Tommy volunteered to set up chairs and tables on the ranch's front lawn. The night before the wedding, Riley couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the journey that had brought her here, losing her parents, losing everything, walking into Millbrook with nothing but the clothes on her back and $5 in her pocket. Cole found her sitting on her cabin porch at midnight, staring up at the stars. Cold feet? He asked, settling beside her. The opposite. I'm just thinking about how different my life is from what I thought it would be. Better or worse? Riley leaned against his shoulder. So much better it scares me sometimes. Why does it scare you? Because I keep waiting for something to go wrong. For someone to tell me this is all a mistake. Cole was quiet for a long moment. You know what I've learned? What? Life's going to throw problems at us no matter what. Droughts, fires, market crashes, sick cattle, broken equipment. There's always something. But having someone to face those problems with, someone who'll stand beside you and work to fix whatever's broken, that makes all the difference. Riley thought about the night of the barn fire, how they'd worked together without even thinking about it, how natural it had felt to be part of a team. I love you. Cole Harrison, she said. I love you too. Riley Chen, soon to be Riley Harrison. The wedding day dawned clear and beautiful. Riley woke up in the main house. Linda had insisted she spend her last night as a single woman there, to the smell of coffee and bacon and the sound of people already setting up chairs outside. Linda helped her get dressed, fussing over every detail like a mother preparing her daughter for the most important day of her life. You look beautiful, Linda said, stepping back to admire Riley in her simple white dress and her grandmother's pearl necklace, something borrowed from Linda's jewelry box. I feel beautiful, Riley said, and realized it was true. Not because of the dress or the makeup, but because of the life she was about to begin. The ceremony was small and perfect. Riley walked down the aisle between the chairs set up on the ranch's front lawn, with wildflowers blooming all around and the Texas hills rolling away into the distance. Cole waited for her at an arch made of oak branches and spring flowers, looking handsome in his best suit and cowboy boots. Tommy officiated. They'd discovered he was ordained online for a friend's wedding years earlier, and he kept the ceremony simple and heartfelt. Do you, Cole Harrison, take Riley Chen to be your wife, to stand with her through good times and bad, through droughts and plenty, through cattle prices and barn fires and whatever else life throws at you? I do, Cole said, his voice strong and sure. Do you, Riley Chen, take Cole Harrison to be your husband, to build a life together? To make this ranch a home for whatever family you create together? Riley looked at Cole, at Linda wiping tears from her eyes, at the faces of neighbors and friends who had become like family. She thought about her parents who would have loved seeing her this happy. She thought about the long journey that had brought her here, all the losses that had led to this incredible gain. I do, she said. When Tommy pronounced them husband and wife, Cole kissed Riley as the small crowd cheered. As they broke apart, laughing and crying at the same time, Riley caught sight of something that made her heart swell even more. There, parked at the edge of the crowd, was a new truck with a sign painted on the side. Harrison Ranch, Cole and Riley Harrison, proprietors. When did you do that? She asked Cole. Last week. I wanted you to see that this is our ranch now, not just mine.